while millions of people are screaming at their televisions, painting their faces, and falling apart emotionally because 11 strangers lost a game, there is an entire group of people who simply do not care. And according to neuroscience, their brains may actually be wired in a fundamentally different way. Stay with me, because what I am about to tell you will completely change how you see the sports-obsessed people in your life. Here is what nobody actually talks about. Not caring about sports does not make you dull. It does not mean you have no passion, and it absolutely does not mean something is broken in you. But there is something genuinely fascinating happening inside your brain that sets you apart from the 60% of Americans who follow sports religiously. Let us start with the obvious question. Why do so many people care this deeply? Human beings are tribal by nature. For thousands of years, belonging to a group meant staying alive. Your tribe hunted with you, protected you, kept you breathing. And sports? Sports are essentially modern tribes with better marketing. When someone watches their team play, their brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same chemical that makes you feel connected to your own family. Remarkable, right? Their brain is literally convincing them that millionaire athletes are part of their inner circle. But here is where it gets interesting. People who do not obsess over sports tend to have what psychologists describe as lower tribal instincts. Their sense of identity is not tightly bound to group membership. They lean more individualistic. They are more comfortable saying, "I do not need to belong to something larger to feel whole." And there is actual science behind this. A 2019 study found that people with low sports interest showed significantly less us versus them thinking, meaning they did not automatically resent the opposing team just for existing on the other side. But wait, it gets stranger, because what happens inside the brain of a devoted sports fan during a game is genuinely alarming. You know that sensation right before you open a gift, that buzz of anticipation? That is dopamine activating in your brain. Sports fans experience that same chemical reaction throughout a game, on every single play. Constant microdoses of anticipation followed by reward. It is, by every measurable standard, addictive. fMRI studies show that watching your team play lights up the same reward centers as gambling and other highly compelling behaviors. And here is the kicker. The uncertainty is precisely what makes it so powerful. You never know if your team will pull through. That unpredictability keeps the dopamine loop running, what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive reward schedule known to behavioral science. The same principle behind slot machines. The mechanism is nearly identical to other forms of behavioral compulsion. The brain does not particularly care where the dopamine comes from, it just knows it wants more. People who do not care about sports simply have dopamine systems that are not triggered by watching others compete. And this may be genetic. Research from the University of Chicago suggests that variations in dopamine receptor genes can actually predict how much someone cares about competitive spectator activity. Think about that. Your complete indifference to whether a team wins or loses tonight might literally be written into your DNA. But there is another layer to this. Sports fans experience what psychologists call burging, basking in reflected glory. When their team wins, they say, "We won." When the team loses, suddenly it becomes "they lost." Notice the pronoun shift. People who do not obsess over sports are far less likely to engage in that kind of psychological merging. Their self-concept stays more consistent. They do not need borrowed victories to feel good about themselves. Their self-esteem is more internally anchored, less dependent on outcomes they have absolutely no control over. Now, before the comment section ignites, I am not saying one approach is superior to the other, but I am saying there are real and measurable psychological differences here, and understanding them matters. Here is something that sounds almost contradictory. Sports fans often score higher on certain empathy measures. They have practiced caring intensely about the struggles of complete strangers, as long as those strangers wear the right jersey. So why does that same emotional pull not register for people who are not into sports? It comes down to how empathy gets allocated. Everyone has a limited capacity for deep emotional investment. People with low sports interest tend to direct that same energy elsewhere, towards social causes, close relationships, creative work, intellectual exploration. A 2021 study found that individuals with low sports interest scored significantly higher in openness to experience and appreciation of art and beauty. They are chasing the same neurological reward, meaning connection, transcendence. They are just finding it in different places. And let us be honest about something else. For some people, not caring about sports is actually a form of self-protection. Maybe they were excluded in gym class. Maybe sports culture felt hostile or aggressive. Maybe they simply could never understand why grown adults scream at televisions over a ball. Your indifference might have a history, or maybe you genuinely just find it boring. Both are equally valid. But here is the part that explains so much about why sports fans and non-sports people sometimes cannot understand each other at all. It comes down to where you find meaning. Sports fans locate meaning in narrative, the underdog, the comeback, the dynasty, the rivalry. It works because it is unpredictable. Real drama, real stakes, real outcomes. People who do not care about sports tend to find that randomness meaningless. They think, why would I invest emotionally in an outcome I cannot affect, performed by people I do not know, in a game that changes nothing in my actual life? They are not wrong, but neither are the fans. It is simply two different approaches to the same human need for story and significance. One group finds their epic narrative in a championship run. The other finds it in a novel, a relationship, a creative project, a scientific discovery, what researchers call parasocial investment versus direct engagement. Sports fans build one-sided emotional bonds with teams and athletes. Non-sports people tend to invest their emotional energy where genuine reciprocity exists, where their investment actually changes something, where they are active participants rather than observers. Neither is a flaw, they are just different strategies for meeting the same human need. And here is what is quietly remarkable. People who do not obsess over sports often report feeling more present inside their own lives. They are not spending 3 hours every Sunday living inside someone else's struggle. They are fully inside their own. There is something almost radical about that. So what does all of this mean? If you do not care about sports, you are not missing some essential human experience, your brain's reward system, your tribal instincts, your empathy allocation. They are all tuned to a different frequency, and that frequency is perfectly valid. The next time someone asks, "Did you catch the game?" and you genuinely have no idea what game they are even referring to, remember, you are not broken, you are not boring, you are just playing a different game. One that might just maybe have higher stakes. If this resonated with you, please subscribe. There is more to explore about how your mind actually works. The next video is going to hit you harder than this one. Click it, you will understand why.